Hello everyone, welcome to the YouTube channel Mission Net Physics Exam. And guys, in today's video, we are going to discuss many important points and topics from atomic and molecular physics. So I hope that today's video will help you all to just prepare all these topics. Even if you have already prepared them, you can revise them with this session. So guys, it's gonna be helpful for all the students, those who have completed their preparation or those who are just starting their preparation. In this video, there will be so many topics of atomic and molecular physics which you will get to know. Also, all the points are gonna be the most important points from where there are chances that you can expect the questions in your upcoming exam. So now let's quickly start the discussion, so that we will be able to cover up many points in this video itself. So guys, first of all, we are going to talk about the G-Man effect. One by one, I will let you know the topics we are going to consider. When we are going to consider the G-Man effect, first thing we need to know about it. See, there is going to be so much theory part as well, but we will not consider the theory part here. Okay, we are mainly going to focus on the numericals, like numerical oriented discussion, basically you can say. Okay, also guys, one more thing, that is, even if you are preparing for the CSIR Net Physics exam or for the GATE Physics exam or any other physics PSG entrance exam, this video will be very much helpful for all of you guys. Also, if you are new on this channel, that is Mission Net Physics Exam, you can subscribe this channel by clicking on the subscribe button below this video. Also, after clicking on subscribe, you will get a bell icon there. You can click on that to get the notifications for the upcoming videos I will upload on this channel, that is Mission Net Physics Exam. Also guys, one more thing, that you can share this video with all your friends, those who are preparing for the exams. Okay, so now let's consider the discussion. If we are going to talk about the G-Man effect, here we are going to have two different type of G-Man effects which we can observe. One will be the normal G-Man effect and the other one will be anomalous G-Man effect. But what is the difference in both? So mainly difference we are going to have in the spin part. So this first one is representing the normal G-Man effect, okay, and the second one is representing the anomalous G-Man effect. To make it more clear to you, I will just show you clearly this part, okay, right now, which we are going to consider in the discussion. So the first one is representing the normal G-Man effect. When we talk about the normal G-Man effect, their spin will be 0, okay, and then only in that case when the spin is 0, okay, then you can observe the normal G-Man effect, while when spin is non-zero, then you will observe the anomalous G-Man effect. Okay, now here the selection rule for the normal G-Man effect, since spin is 0 and we know J is equal to L plus S, okay, so in that case when S is 0, J will be equal to L, and in this case what will happen, the selection rule is just delta ml is equal to 0 comma plus minus 1. Corresponding to delta ml is equal to 0 selection rule, okay, the lines you will observe, they are, or the components you are going to get, they are known as pi components corresponding to delta ml is equal to 0, and the components you will observe corresponding to delta ml is equal to plus minus 1, they are known as sigma components. Okay, so this is normal G-Man effect situation we are considering right now. After this, if we are going to talk about the angular velocity, okay, in this case, so as per Larmor's theorem, okay, as per Larmor's theorem, you are going to have this omega expression which is equal to EB upon 2m, where B is the magnetic field, okay, which has been applied, and this expression will be equal to mu L upon L, magnitudes have been considered here, into B, where mu L is the orbital magnetic moment and L is the orbital angular momentum. Clear? And B is again the applied magnetic field. Clear? Next, if we are going to talk about the next point, that is related to the projection of L along the field. That means, let's say the field has been applied in the z-axis, like along the z-axis. So in that case, the Lz value which you have to consider will be ml h upon 2 pi. Also guys, what is ml here? Let's say L is equal to 1. So ml values will be equal to minus L to plus L, or you can say plus L to minus L. But the gap or the difference between the values should be just of one value. That means let's say L is equal to 1. Okay, this L is equal to 1. Okay, now in that case, plus 1, 0, minus 1 will be the values of ml. Okay, that's how you can write them. Next point, if anytime somebody is going to ask you about the interaction energy in the normal Zeeman effect case, that will be equal to omega into Lz. Lz you have got here, that is ml into h upon 2 pi, corresponding to all the values of ml. You can write this expression, and whatever they will ask in the question, they will specify that point. Okay, so you will easily be able to get this thing, that what you need to consider. Omega, angular velocity, we have already considered it above. Okay, as per Larmor's theorem, we have considered the omega value. You can put it here and you can get the value of interaction energy. That will be delta E is equal to omega Lz. Clear? Next point. Now, if in terms of wave number you want to write energy, not only in this case, in any of the further cases and the topics we will consider in this video, anytime if you want to know about the energy in terms of wave number, you just need to divide the actual energy expression with hc, and that is going to be the energy in terms of wave number. Okay, next point, if we are going to talk about the wave number separation between any consecutive Zeeman lines, okay, or levels, so in this case they are going to be equal to EB upon 4 pi MC. In the normal Zeeman effect, we are considering it right now. Okay, EB upon 4 pi MC. This is what? This is the wave number separation between any consecutive Zeeman levels. Okay, so you should know about it. After this, the next formula is a common formula. You can use it. Okay, anytime, and this is even very important, because the questions based on the frequency shift and the wavelength shift have been asked so many times in the previous years in CSIR net physics exam as well as in the gate physics exam. So yes, delta nu expression and delta lambda expression, they both are very important. Delta nu represents the frequency shift, which will be equal to EB upon 4 pi m, while delta lambda represents the wavelength shift, and that will be equal to lambda square upon c EB upon 4 pi m. These expressions you can even write in terms of Bohr's magnetone, okay, or you can write the delta lambda expression in terms of the frequency shift, okay, because this term EB upon 4 pi m you can replace with delta nu, and you will be able to get this expression in terms of frequency shift. Now the point is, when we have to replace these values to get like the different expression, whenever the given parameters are not like as per all the values which are present in this equation, but they have provided you the frequency shift or the wavelength, okay, and they want you to find the wavelength shift. Clear? Wavelength is given, frequency shift expression is given or the value is given, and you want to find the frequency, the wavelength shift. So you will directly use that formula just by putting delta nu there. Okay, so as per the requirement of the question or as per the given parameters in the question, you will just consider the formula accordingly, and you will just put the values in that formula to get the final answer. Now let's talk about the anomalous Zeeman effect. When we are going to talk about the anomalous Zeeman effect, guys, what are the important expressions in the anomalous Zeeman effect? Let's consider them. There are going to be many other topics, so one by one we'll talk about them. So right now, in the anomalous Zeeman effect case, the first point I have told you, that was then that spin will be non-zero. Okay, that spin will be non-zero in this case, and along with that, the selection rule, you have to be careful about it now. The selection rule is gonna be that delta mj is equal to 0 and plus minus 1. Okay, it can be 0 or plus minus 1 for the levels where the transition is taking place. Clear? After this, if we are going to talk about the next point, that's going to be related to mj is equal to 0 to mj is equal to 0 transition will not take place. When it will not take place? Whenever the delta j is equal to 0 for both the levels, okay, in which we are considering the Zeeman levels, okay, after splitting. So for that, delta j should not be, if it is equal to 0, this transition will not take place. Okay, so that is a part of selection rule. Next point, what is going to be angular velocity? Okay, so it is gonna be as per the Lamar's theorem again. So you can get the value of omega, which will be equal to GE upon 2m into B, where G is the Lende-G factor, and what is the expression for that I will let you know. Clear? B is the magnetic field, and this is again the ratio of these quantities, these values. It's gonna be exactly same like the normal Zeeman effect, but the difference is, since in this case spin is non-zero, so you will have the value of J as L plus S. Okay, but in the previous case, that means in the normal Zeeman effect, spin was 0. So in that case, J is equal to L plus S. So S is 0, clear? In the normal Zeeman effect, spin is 0. So in that case, J is equal to L we got. And that's why we were preferring and we were writing most of the formulae in terms of L. Okay, you can have a look at this. This was corresponding to normal Zeeman effect, while this one is corresponding to anomalous Zeeman effect now. Next point. Here, it's gonna be the magnetic moment of atom. If any time anybody is going to ask you to find the magnetic moment of atom, what you will do, you will use this formula in this case, that is mu J is equal to GE upon 2m mod J. Okay, magnitude of vector J you can say. And what will be the magnitude of vector J? That will be root J into J plus 1 H upon 2m. Okay, so this is the complete magnitude of vector J you are going to have, and rest of the terms same as we have already considered them here. So you can see that omega value was GEB upon 2m. So GE upon 2m is what? Here, except B, the rest of the term are going to show the ratio of mu J upon J. Okay, that was the value of GE upon 2m. If you even want, you can put it here, the mu J upon J, and when you will cross multiply, okay, you are going to get the same expression with that one. Okay, mu J upon J is equal to GE upon 2m, cross multiply, you will get the same expression. Next point, what is Lende-G factor? Also guys, in the recent years, if you will check the previous years, okay, you will get the Lende-G factor based question. So it has been asked. Even there are chances that in your upcoming exam you can have a question based on it. Clear? So this is the formula for the Lende-G factor, which is 1 plus J into J plus 1 plus S into S plus 1 minus L into L plus 1 upon 2J into J plus 1. Now the point is, be careful about it. This one is not like present like together with all the terms. It is separately written, and the rest of the terms have been mentioned separately. And from where you will get the value of J, S and L? The spectroscopic term, either it will be given in the question or you have to find it, and accordingly you can write the values of J, S and L. Okay, next, and they are having their like usual meaning. Okay, next, if any time you want to find the cosine of L and J, okay, for L and J, so what is the formula for that? That's gonna be J into J plus 1. Let me just tell you the way how you can memorize it easily. So it's gonna be J into J plus 1 plus L into L plus 1 minus S into S plus 1. So you can see when you are writing it for L and J, so L and J are going to have the positive values, but the value of S, or you can say the expression of S, before that the negative sign has been mentioned here. Clear? And in the denominator both the expressions are present, that is root J into J plus 1, root L into L plus 1, these two, okay, and multiplied with 2. So that's how you can write the formula for cosine of L and J, as well as any other, okay, whether it's gonna be something else here instead of L and J. In the same way you can write the formula, you can make it, okay, and you will get the right expression. Just you need to follow the same pattern and you will be able to get it. Since in the anomalous Zeeman effect case, the spin will be non-zero, so the type of transitions or the Zeeman lines you will observe, that will be in these type of cases. This is basically sodium D line, the transitions we are observing here. This is for D1, this is for D2. D1 line transitions are going to take place from 2p 1 by 2 to 2s 1 by 2. These are the spectroscopic terms which have been mentioned here. Okay, and for D2 line, we are going to observe the transition from 2p 3 by 2 to 2s 1 by 2. It's gonna be very important. Clear? Even you should know about the sodium D lines directly. You should know about the transitions from which level to which level. This transition will take place for D1 line and D2 line. Okay, these two are very important. You should know about them. You should even memorize them if possible. After this, we are going to consider the Paschen-Beck effect. If we are going to talk about the Paschen-Beck effect, guys, it will be here. See, in this case, what you need to consider, basically in the G-Min effect, the field applied will be the weak field, okay? But when you are going to consider the strong field, then what will happen? So have a look at this Paschen-Beck effect, then you will get to know about it. So basically, in the presence of a strong field, anomalous G-Min pattern changes into the normal G-Min, or you can say, yeah, normal G-Min pattern. Okay, so that is gonna behave like a normal G-Min pattern, or it will just give you the same result as you are going to get with the normal G-Min pattern. How and when you are going to increase the strength of the fields, okay, in the strong fields. Now the point is, what is going to happen in this case? The effect, the phenomena which you are going to observe, that is known as the Paschen-Beck effect. After that, you need to know about few expressions corresponding to that, like the omega L and omega S. In this case, you have to consider the separate expressions corresponding to orbital, okay, angular momentum, or you can say the spin, okay, corresponding to both. So EB upon 2m for omega L and omega S will be equal to 2EB upon 2m, okay. Now next point, if we are going to talk about next point, also guys, if you are thinking why 1 and 2 are present here, I have told you the Landé-G factor formula, clear? In that case, consider two situations, one pure orbital motion, other one pure spin motion. Corresponding to them, try to just consider, when it is pure orbital motion, you will consider the concept of L there, you will just put the value for that. In the pure spin motion, just consider S there, okay, and that's how you will be able to get the value of Landé-G factor as 1 and 2 for the pure spin motion and pure orbital motion, and that's how this formula we are going to have. After knowing about the expressions or the formulae for omega L and omega S, we are going to have the expressions for E delta EL, again the interaction energy corresponding to L and corresponding to S. The formula remains same in all the cases. Here you just need to take the product of omega L with LZ and here omega S with SZ. Okay, next point. The total interaction energy here will be due to L and S both. So what you need to do, you just need to add them together. So when you are just going to add them, you will get a particular expression. You can just put the value of omega L, omega S here and add those things. Okay, whatever expression you are getting, that is total interaction energy or main interaction energy, you can say. Also, what will be the value of SZ here? That will be ms, okay, h upon 2 pi. So it's again same, like we consider ml minus l to plus l or plus l to minus l, okay, at a difference of one value. In the same way, you can consider the value of ms too. Clear? Next point. If we are going to talk about, since this is the strong field effect, so you can call it the number of strong field lines or levels will be equal to 2s plus 1 into 2l plus 1. This is the formula, again you need to know about it. After this, if we are going to talk about the selection rule corresponding to the Paschen-Beck effect, guys, it's gonna be delta ml is equal to 0, component polarized parallel to the field, okay, that you will get corresponding to this. Delta ml is equal to plus minus 1, component polarized perpendicular to the field. Also delta ms is equal to 0. If these conditions, one from delta ml part and one from delta ms part, if both will satisfy, then you will say that yes, you can observe this, okay, or transition is possible as per this selection rule. Next point, if we are going to talk about the next point, that's going to be related to, see, whenever you want to observe whether how many total number of transition lines you are going to get, okay, or anything like that. So in this case, what you need to do, see, first of all, you will have to find the value of ml plus 2ms. Okay, how you will get it? When you are going to take the sum of both energies, delta EL and delta ES, okay, you will get this term there, that is ml plus 2ms. And when you are going to get this term, okay, then after finding the values of these terms, you will make the levels like this. Okay, let's say ml plus 2ms value you will write here, ml plus 2ms value you will write here for all possible combinations. Whatever values of ml are possible, whatever values of ms you are getting corresponding to the given question, okay, you will consider all the possible combinations and write the values here. Then consider the transition as per these selection rules, okay, and it will be easy for you. You can easily do that, okay, after taking these steps. Next point, after Paschen-Beck effect, in the Paschen-Beck effect, mainly selection rules and like interaction energy, okay, and along with that, like omega value and all these things, whatever are important, that's what we have mentioned here and we are considering them right now. Now, next is gonna be Stark effect. If we are going to Stark effect, its selection rules are same as the G-min effect. Okay, you can even see for the weak filled Stark effect, delta mj is equal to 0 and plus minus 1. Only one extra condition has not been considered here. Otherwise, it's like approximately same. Strong filled, delta ml is equal to 0 and plus minus 1. In a Stark effect, rest of the part was just like the theory part. Okay, so these are the most important points from the Stark effect which you need to know. Next point. Next, we are going to consider the hyperfine splitting. Okay, and all these topics are going to be important ones. So yeah, you should know about the selection rules. You should know about the expressions. You should know about the frequency shift. You should know about the wavelength shift in the G-min effect case, and you can expect the questions based on all these points. Okay. Next, when we are going to talk about hyperfine splitting, guys, it's gonna be like in this particular topic, you will need the expression of I. And what is I here? I is basically nuclear spin angular momentum. Clear? And we denote it with I itself. So what is the magnitude of nuclear spin angular momentum? It will be equal to root I into I plus 1 h upon 2 pi. Okay, where I is what? Nuclear spin quantum number here in this expression at this point. Clear? After this, what will happen? This magnitude of vector I you are finding. What is this vector I? Nuclear spin angular momentum. What is this I within this expression? Nuclear spin quantum number. Clear? And that value either be given to you in the question, or you will easily be able to get it with the information given in the question, so you don't need to worry about that part. Next, what will be IZ? IZ, LZ, ZZ, SZ, all these are going to be exactly like in the same way we are writing their expressions. Okay, just we are making the change in the first term. That is, now you have to consider it corresponding to I. So mi h upon 2 pi, and mi again is going to have the values from plus I to minus I. Okay, like ml plus L to minus L at a difference of 1 1 1. In the same way you will have the value of mi. Also guys, if we are going to talk about next expression, that is for nuclear magnetic moment. When we are talking about the nuclear magnetic moment in this case, okay, in the hyperfine splitting, so you will have mu I is equal to gi. Again, it is corresponding to I, lambda g factor you are having. Okay, root I into I plus 1 EH upon 4 pi MP. And this EH upon 4 pi MP term is known as nuclear magnetone. But what is the value of nuclear magnetone, guys? So this is 1 upon 1836 times the value of Bohr's magnetone. Okay, 1836 times the value of Bohr's magnetone. So that is the relation between the nuclear magnetone and Bohr's magnetone. It should even be clear to all of you, so that anytime if you want to use this expression, you will be able to use it and get the answer quickly and easily. Clear? Let's talk about next point now. If we are going to talk about next point, that is related to the total angular momentum in this case, in case of hyperfine splitting. Okay, so there you are going to have J is equal to L plus S, okay, in general. But now in this case, along with L plus S, you will even have I present. So you will have J, or you can say the total angular momentum. For this case, we are denoting it with F, okay, and that's gonna be L plus S plus I. You know what is I, okay, that we have already considered in the starting. It will be same here. Also guys, the magnitude of F, that is the total angular momentum quantum number, its magnitude will be root F into F plus 1 h upon 2 pi. Again, this expression is going to have like the F values you will have in general. Okay, the value will either be given to you, or you know about J and I, then you can find it. Clear? Next point, if we are talking about the selection rule corresponding to the value of F, that's gonna be delta F is equal to 0 plus minus 1. Also, F is equal to 0 to F is equal to 0 transition will not be possible, not be allowed. Okay, and in this case the degeneracy will be equal to 2F plus 1. Quickly we are considering all these points, and you can see that how many points, how many topics we have completed only in this much time. Okay, let's consider the next point now. So next point is related to pure rotational spectra. That means from the molecular, you can say that from the molecular part. Okay, so in case of pure rotational spectra, there are few points which everybody needs to know. One is that you can observe it in the far infrared and the microwave region. Okay, and molecules having permanent electric dipole, okay, movement can exhibit rotational spectra. That means homonuclear molecules will not be able to exhibit this, okay, that is pure rotational spectra, or they will not show this spectra. For example, H2O2 N2, which are homonuclear diatomic molecules, they will not exhibit the pure rotational spectra. Next point, but heteronuclear diatomic molecules, which are like HCl, HBr, CO, they will exhibit or they will show the pure rotational spectra. Also guys, if we are going to talk about the next point in the pure rotational spectra, it is like the diatomic molecule as a rigid rotator. Okay, in this expression, the first thing you need to know is the moment of inertia, that is mu r square. Once you know about the moment of inertia expression, you are going to use it so many times in the different expressions which we will have in this topic. Okay, so yeah, it's gonna be mu, the second term which you have to use so many times, and it is known as reduced mass, which is equal to m1 m2 upon m1 plus m2. Okay, and this is just a general expression of reduced mass. Here this is the rigid rotator case we are considering for the diatomic molecule. Okay, m1 is the mass for this one, m2 is the mass for that one. Okay, and the distance r, it has been shown in this figure, and at the center you can see this axis, this is the axis of rotation. So everything has been shown in like here in this figure. Now anytime if you want to find the energy of rigid rotator, so its expression will be h square upon 8 pi square. Let me just show you, just a second. It's gonna be, yeah, it's here. See, h square upon 8 pi square I j into j plus 1. Here I is moment of inertia, okay, and the values of j is just a positive integer, you can say, or a constant, and its values can be 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on to. One point you need to remember here is that the values of j are starting from 0. Okay, next point. Here, as per classical mechanics, if you are going to consider the expression of energy, it's gonna be half I omega square. Okay, and the L value, that is angular momentum value, as per classical mechanics, if you are going to consider, it will be equal to I omega. So it is L is equal to I omega you will have here. Next point is L is equal to h upon 2 pi root j into j plus 1. Now you may say, okay, we know this, why we need this then? Because guys, if you are not having the information about all these points and you want to write the expression, or you want to use the expression of L in terms of j, then you will use the second one, and that's why we are having both the expressions. Next point, if we are going to talk about rotational frequency, so guys, in that case, the rotational frequency will be equal to omega upon 2 pi. You already know the value of omega in this case. Just put it here, that is L upon I, and then you know about the value of L, that you can put here in terms of J. What is the value of L? You can put it here and you will get this expression. So all the expressions one by one are related to each other, and I hope after watching this video, it will be easy for you to memorize any one of these expressions. Next is energy in terms of wave number. If you want to find, I have already told you in the starting that what you have to do, you just need to divide the energy expression with hc to get the energy in terms of wave number. So that's what we are going to do here. E upon hc, we already know about the E value for the rigid rotator case. Just divide it by hc, you will get this term. Okay, that is h upon 8 pi square ic into j plus 1, where h upon 8 pi square ic is representing B, that is known as rotational constant. Okay, and the values of j can be equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 and so on to in this case. Next point, here guys, what you are going to get with this, when you are going to put the values of j as 0, then 1, then 2 and then 3 and so on to 1 by 1, you will observe one thing, that is you will get a series of discrete rotational energy levels. Okay, you will get a series of discrete rotational energy levels here, but they will have the spacing which will increase when you are increasing the value of j. So you can see here, when you are increasing these values of j, okay, the distance is even increasing, okay, between two consecutive levels. It was 2b here, then okay, it's not moving, done. So it should be here at this level, It's okay now. Now, if we are going to talk about this, okay, the distance between two consecutive levels, it will keep on increasing as you are increasing the value of j. Done. Next point, what is the selection rule corresponding to this? That is delta j is equal to plus minus 1. Okay, so one topic was going on, which was pure rotational spectra, and all the important points we have considered corresponding to this topic. The next part of this topic is that till now we have considered the rigid rotator. Okay, now we are going to consider the non-rigid rotator. When we are considering the non-rigid rotator, what is going to be the energy expression in terms of wave number? Because Fj just represents the energy in terms of wave number here. Okay, now that will be equal to Bj into j plus 1 minus dj square into j plus 1 square, where d is the centrifugal distortion constant. Also, there is a condition that the value of d will be very much smaller than b. Okay, and that's an important point. You should know about it. It can help you anywhere to answer any such related question. Next point, if we are talking about the isotope effect, okay, in the rotational spectra case, so here let's say there is gonna be the rotational constant b that we have already considered. What is its value? Okay, you can check it out when we have written we have mentioned the energy in terms of wave number. Okay, after dividing it by hc in the rigid rotator case, from there you have got b. Clear? The rotational constant. If bh is the heavier molecules, okay, you can say rotational constant, and it will be less than what? B, because this is inversely proportional to I. Okay, and you can check out the expression of B once to get sure about it. For the heavier one, the value of B will be less than the lighter one. Next, in this case, if you are going to compare the energy in terms of wave number, so for the heavier one, the energy in terms of wave number will be smaller or less than the energy in terms of wave number for the lighter one. This is the isotope effect. If you are comparing the two isotopes, one heavier, another one lighter, then this will be the phenomena you will be able to observe. Okay, next point. If we are going to talk about the next point, let me just show you. Yeah, we are about to start the vibrational rotational spectra, so that most probably we will consider in the next class, and this was the part we have considered in today's session, because it was like there were so many points already, and it was like, I hope that whatever points we have considered till now, they will be clear to all of you, and in our upcoming sessions we will try to consider a few more points and few more concepts. Also guys, now I'm just going to tell you about the Unacademy Plus subscription. So if you want to attend more regular live classes by all the top educators we are having on Unacademy Plus for your upcoming CSIR Net Physics exam preparation, then guys you can take the Unacademy Plus subscription. Also, by using and by applying the referral code, that is Anjali Arora, as it is mentioned here, you will get the 10% discount in the total Unacademy Plus subscription amount. Also guys, along with this thing, there are many more points I would like to tell you about the Unacademy Plus subscription. That's gonna be that there are going to be different spatial classes series which are going on. So right now one series which is going on is top 50 questions for CSIR net exam. Clear? So here we are going to have like different series going on, but right now at present this one is going on. You can check it out on Unacademy Learning app. In my profile you can check it. Also in the description box of this video I will provide you the link with the help of which you will be able to check out all the sessions of this series. Okay, so check the description box to know about the top 50 question series and its sessions. Clear? And it will get clear to you in this way. Also guys, along with all these things, whenever you are going to take the subscription, you can use and apply the referral code, that is Anjali Arora. Okay, and after applying it you can get the 10% discount in the total Unacademy Plus subscription amount. Also guys, you can check out the description box once. There I have mentioned the link for my profile on Unacademy Learning app. You can follow me there too. Okay, and along with that you can use and apply this referral code whenever you are going to take the Unacademy Plus subscription. And after taking the subscription, you will get so many benefits, like weekly quizzes will be there, doubt clearing sessions will be there, mock tests will be there. Okay, and there are going to be many other important things. So yeah, mock test analysis session will be there, and you will get the guidance by all the top educators. So that's how you will be able to prepare very well for your upcoming CSIR Net Physics exam. Okay, and thank you so much everyone for watching this video till the end. If you like this video, then you can like it, you can share it with your friends too. Okay, and let me know how did you find this video in the comment section, so that if there is any suggestion you want to give, like you can give it there in the comment section. Also about the video you can mention it, that how did you find it, so that accordingly we will have the plan for upcoming videos too. Okay, so let me know that was it helpful for you, did you get to know about many points in less time, and what was the purpose of making this video. The purpose was to let you know about many important points together in very less time. Okay, there are many more points like vibrational rotational spectra, Raman spectra, how to find the spectroscopic terms. You will keep on getting the videos, so don't worry about that. Also, if you are new on this channel, that is Mission Net Physics Exam, please subscribe this channel, okay, by clicking on the subscribe button below this video. Also, after clicking on subscribe, you will get a bell icon there. You can click on that to get the notification for new videos I will provide you on this channel. Thank you everyone for watching this video till the end. Thank you. Okay, and I hope everything will be clear to you. If there is any doubt, you can even mention that in comments. Thank you everyone.